Good morning. All right, let's start the racing week. We've got a big day of races today, so I'm going to try to get through this pretty quick. It's going to be a recap of the first couple racing days of March over at Oaklawn Park. I really don't have a whole lot to touch on as far as Sunday. I saw some chatter that the racetrack was kind of a bias, kind of speed favoring. Overall, I kind of just went back. I looked at the results. I kind of went through each horse. And I didn't really see it as such, enough where if I'm going to see a bias or a profile, I want to see that the track really carried those horses and they wouldn't have won or they wouldn't have lost if the track profile had been different. And it's hard to say that was the case. It kind of felt like the results were logical. They kind of matched up with the horse's form, the way the race shape played out. It'll be something to monitor going forward, but that was just kind of my overall feel of last Sunday. And kind of the same thing on Thursday. I thought the track, kind of favored horses forwardly placed, but for the most part wasn't anything that really moved horses kind of, up or down. Their form seemed to match up with the results, with the pace, so on and so forth. I mean, as far as kind of the plays on Brisnet that day, not the most ideal results. But I will say one of those horses that ran on Thursday is actually entered to run next week. So we'll keep an eye on him because I thought he ran sneaky well, and you guys will see the write-up. I just did it this morning. I haven't submitted yet, but, we'll kind of see. And then let's go through yesterday, because I think yesterday there's kind of a lot of things to talk about. And this is, I say yesterday, I guess it's fair to give a date. So this is March 6th. I have a Thursday kind of didn't really have things set up all that well. So you can kind of see my eyes all over the place here. So I'm moving some things around to talk about yesterday. So March 6th, this is a Friday. Trainers that I think are kind of starting to pick up some steam are Ron Moquette and Carl Broberg. And they kind of started out the meet. I mean, these are trainers that are familiar on the circuit. Start off the meet a little bit chilly. Their horses kind of shipping in, coming off layoffs. But both of them had some success yesterday, even a couple winners, but also some horses that ran underneath, that ran really well and ran improved. So just a couple barns to kind of keep an eye on. If you see those trainers, some of their horses coming up over the weekend, maybe they didn't run that great in their first start, maybe making some changes, things like that. Let's start with race 6. Well, I'm not going to go through the whole card today, just kind of a couple spots. Again, we've got a long day today, a lot of racing, good racing at Santa Anita. I do the spotlight selections over at Brisnet. So 12 race card, a lot of opportunities, a lot of, just kind of some tough races, really contentious spots. So if you're kind of looking for some opinions on the card, where you want to stand, check that out. Hopefully I have some good ideas and winners, but if not, hopefully it'll help you kind of firm up your own opinions going there. All right, let's get focused on Oaklawn here. All right, so race 6. I don't want to talk about in this race. Yeah, so what I want to talk about in this race particular is looking at kind of what a lot of people think of when they think of notes and thinking of doing trip notes in particular, where they're really looking for a horse that had trouble and that type of playback horse. And obviously, I've mentioned this stuff before, where all of that's important, where a horse has trouble and it cost them the race or a better position. We had one of those horses yesterday win back at Santa Anita, just kind of a full excuse, got some clash relief and got the win at a pretty good 9-2, paid about $11.40 yesterday. So, those happen. But for the most part, when you're doing notes and doing trip notes, you really just want to focus on, is that horse, I know I say this a lot, improve, regress, or staying the same? I know it's repetitive, but I do tens of thousands of trip notes a year, and in every single race and in every single horse, that's what I'm looking at. And so it's become one of those things where it's automatic at this point, but I don't think, people that are doing trip notes, especially if you're doing spot notes, you can't really pick up on that, but you have to be looking for it. And race 6 is one of those races. So we'll look at the favorite. And again, this result, there was 3 horses on the wire. So the top 3 horses, they all ran well. But we'll start with number 7, Violent Ridge. The favorite of the race, going out for Diodoro, making his 3rd start of the meet. Now, when he ran his first start of the meet on February 2nd, coming off a 421-day layoff. Big effort. big win that day by open lengths, B plus effort. And I believe we talked about this horse on the recap video, and I'm sorry if I didn't and being repetitive, but very live coming off that layoff, well placed, and was noted with regress. Because just for all those factors, you have the layoff, you have the big effort, kind of well spotted, like hot barn. They were in it to win it that day. And when he came back 18 days later, February 20th, still a good effort, finished second. That speed figure, at least, you guys that know, I'm looking at Optix figures here. So he ran 100 back on February 2nd, and then ran a 94 on February 20th. So a little bit of regression there, which was expected coming off that big effort, but still, finished second. So from a form cycle wise, he's coming back in another 15 days, so another short rest, protected again. So that's a positive, right? But you can kind of just tell as a short price favorite, you want to see, everything is perfect, right? Going to get the right trip, coming into the right form, speed figures on par, all those things. And so you kind of have like, all right, where's this guy in his form cycle? Maybe he's a little bit vulnerable here. The winner of the race, Drana Star, also making third start of the meet. He made his first start back in the mud in an open claiming event. Pressed, lacked a finish, but there was 3 horses on the wire. Track conditions maybe played a factor. He was kind of tiring, lugging late. But an improved effort in his second start. Again, caught an off track on February 23rd, but a big effort. Stayed on, was pressed throughout against the flow, and stayed on for second. Top 2, well clear of the rest. So really strong effort, B grade for that effort. Yesterday, so you have that progression. January 25th, when he made his first start, ran an 83. Second start, February 22nd, and 95. Positive improvement, positive grades, positive speed figures. Yesterday, was stepped up in class, but he's coming into the race the right way, and a really gritty effort. I mean, the race coming down to the wire, you could have been any of those 3 horses, and he just kind of dug in. So gritty effort there. Top 3, the other horse of that race, Pat Daddy, another horse, positive form cycle pattern, making his second start off the layoff, came back off 85 days, February 22nd. Wide trip, kind of one pace, but given the layoff, came back in 13 days, was able to save ground. A little bit of trouble in the lane, lacked a little bit of room, but still kind of when he came through, sort of out kicked late by Drana Star, still B effort, solid effort. So I wanted to give that example of notes because it's a very subtle way to look at notes and to look at form cycle. And if you're not doing this on the day and day, it's a very tough to pick up those things, just kind of looking at the form, or again, just kind of spot watching races here and there. All right, let's move on. We'll go to race 7. I think there's just a couple more races. This might be the other one. Let's get this to load up here. So race 7 yesterday. One of the things I kind of noticed when I was going back and looking over Sunday and Thursday, and just low or at the most average early, and it's just kind of weird, right? That you just kind of see that consistently. So the 7th race yesterday, we had a fast early pace, and it's set up as such. So I think that's important, when you're looking at those profiles and looking at horses run. This is one of those races where the race shape and the results kind of came into play, right? So let's kind of go through the pace here, because we had a few horses that were contesting the early lead. The best of the speed horse was number 12, Academy Bay. This is one of those Broberg horses that I was talking about, that even though he didn't get the win, I mean, he ran, I gave the winner a B, and I gave him a B, and I gave even the 3rd place finisher a B, because you just kind of, when for Optix grades, it's kind of the overall picture. You're looking at the trip, you're looking at the effort, you're looking at the visuals, you're looking at the race shape, all those things to kind of assess the grade. So it's not uncommon to kind of see that, especially when you think, if there was just something a little bit different, a little bit, different trip here, a little bit softer pace for Academy Bay, he would have won. If there wasn't enough pace for Broadway Ice, he might have finished 5th. These types of things that are factored into the grade. So a solid effort for Academy Bay. He was wide outside of horses, close up to that fast pace, stayed on late. A couple of those other horses, the number 6, Sacred Tiki Bird, was part of the early pace, finished 6th. Number 5, Most Mischief, he was kind of ridden early, didn't really break on top, was kind of pushed along from the inside. And then that cost him late. I think he was against the flow. So a little bit of tactics on that one. And that's worth noting because he was just a tick shy of 4-1 on the board. So I think trip and pace probably cost that horse a better effort there. But the winner of the race, 10, 12, 14, it's kind of tricky. So horse 10, 12, 14, sort of got the kind of setup trip where he was just sort of tracking behind those pace setters, and then under a strong ride by Quinones to get the upset. It was just sort of right pace, right place, the right time, taking over from Academy Bay, and then having the first jump on Broadway Ice, closing, big close for him, kind of inside out, closing late on the scene, and just sort of galloped out in front. Thought a good effort from Firehorn. Made a move. He made that move into kind of that first part of the fast pace. Those are things you just want to look at. I know it's a little bit subtle, but I thought that was a sneaky good effort there. And then the same thing for October Sky. He's one of these horses we go back to race 6, talking about form cycle, sort of steadily improving. Kind of a sneaky effort for him because he got caught. He made that move heading into the turn and then caught really wide and then making up ground. And I've seen horses. There was a horse that got the win. That was yesterday, actually. They got the win coming from off the pace with a wide trip off the turn, but did have to dig for it. I mean, it's hard to kind of make that big wide outside move and get there. You kind of lose a lot of momentum and ground here at Oaklawn. So that kind of happened there, where I think maybe it would have been a little bit closer. There wasn't some ground loss, been able to stay inside. But either way, still a good effort going forward. Race 8. This is actually the race I was thinking of, where the winner, kind of back up a little bit. So I wrote up this race for Brisnet. Something happened, communication, it just didn't get posted, which is kind of a bummer because especially when you have the winner, right? That always tends to happen. I tweeted it out. I'm not going to talk about it too much because it was just one of those things. But the race kind of set up on paper, I mean optics plot, for George's Reward, given the pace scenario to kind of make that run from off the pace. Another horse, positive form cycle, third start off the layoff. Talked about this earlier. Ron Milquet, his horses are improving as the meet's going on and getting some racing. But sort of the key to that race was the number 5, Sakani, had the look of a horse that was going to be a really short price favorite off a big maiden win earlier in this meet. And no doubt the effort was a solid effort to break her maiden, Sakani, on February 17th. Big effort, took pressure, and then drew off late by open lengths. But visually, I think this is important when you watch these visuals, that she's under a drive to finish. Even though she's clear, there's not a threat in sight. And sometimes I don't mind that with horses because you don't want them to think like the race is over because one day there's going to be a horse there, right? You want to teach them, especially when they're young and they're developing, teach them how to finish. So I don't mind that, but then you also think like, how much is there, right? So this horse is under a drive, even though she's clear. She ran that big figured. So it's kind of like a quote unquote top, right? So coming back in 18 days off that top, having some pressure on the front end, she was positioned as quadrant 3, so not a real pace advantage as far as, with these other horses in the race, older horses, 3-year-old facing older, was vulnerable. In this spot. Wouldn't be surprised if she won, but you got to take her on. It's just one of those times you got to do it. Like win or lose, you take them on. Yesterday it worked out. She finished 4th. The pace scenario set up for George's Reward, positive form cycle, getting the right trip, getting some class relief coming out of the down the dusty road stakes. And then I got that right trip. She lost ground off the turn, strong ride Santana, as he does often, to get that win. A good effort, kind of a surprising effort. Was Euro Meet, and she won. This is her second start of the meet. She won back on February 27th. It was kind of a weaker field. A lot of those horses were racing above condition, so kind of discounted her a little bit in a spot off that. But I thought it was a pretty solid effort. Raced inside, made a move, had to hit the brakes, made another move late. A good effort, and that was back in 8 days. So we'll kind of see form cycle wise, where she goes from here. I don't know if there's a whole lot of upside, but sort of in a lateral class move is probably at the level where she can compete. As far as everybody else in here, pretty even efforts, some wide trips, etc. But those are sort of the main horses. I guess Tiger Bait, being the pace being what it was, kind of honest early, staying on sort of the best of the speed of that group. Double check. Yeah, I think that'll kind of cover it for today. I think that's everything. Got a good day of racing at Oaklawn Park. There is a graded stakes race, the Honeybee. I read it up on Brisnet. I'll be able to put that link out soon. Maybe it's already up. I haven't checked yet, but it's written up, it's sent out. Hopefully we'll get that up. Otherwise, I'll tweet it out. So make sure you follow on Twitter, Emily at OptixEQ. As far as other information, I recorded 2 podcasts this week, a guest on 2 different podcasts, a little bit of crossover. So the How to Bet with Ed DeRosa, the Twin Spires podcast, we talked about the 3 Derby prep races this week. So down in Tampa, there's a horse I like in that race. I'm not going to say it here. You're going to have to listen. Talked about the Gotham, kind of went through some horses, went through the race, and then the San Felipe. And then with Gino on That's What G Said, we did a real kind of comprehensive kind of a stakes race cover for the races at Santa Anita. And a really good discussion. It's fun for me. I mean, he mentioned it. We looked at races the same way, talking trips and stuff. So I think both those, definitely check them out. Support us if you can. That's you're going to be a better horse player. It's great information. So that's it. So who do I like in the Gotham? I just said I did on the podcast who I like in the Gotham. There's a couple horses coming out of Florida. That's my kind of preview there. There's a couple horses coming out of the Swale in Florida. Now there's 3 of them that are coming out of the Swale, and I kind of give a push to 2. It might not be the one that you think, even though a result there wouldn't be a surprise. But yeah, some good racing there. All over. Let's see if there's anything else coming through. All right, I think that's it, you guys. Thank you for watching, and hopefully we'll cover tomorrow. If not, we'll do a recap of the weekend races. Again, send those chats, message on Twitter, OptixEQ. I'll put the link for the podcast in the description if you haven't followed there. All right, you guys, good luck this weekend.